All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Today we are talking about a new Xbox report that, if true, when I say this, I'm not saying it in an exaggerated, hyperbolic manner, it is over. This is a report that comes from a source that normally I would be very skeptical about the amount of information we're going to go over. But considering who the source is, I realize that, oh, this is happening. The big takeaway from this, though, and I think what a lot of people are going to be focused on, is the fact that this report claims Microsoft may have canceled their plans for a next-gen console and next-gen hardware. But it goes well beyond that, and it essentially highlights the complete strategy shift that has happened, I guess, overnight with Microsoft, which I guess wouldn't be too surprising considering the things that they've been announcing recently. A second price hike for their consoles, a massive price hike for Game Pass, and putting out $1,000 handheld that they didn't even make themselves internally. I think what we're going to go over here isn't too shocking, but again, if it's true, it really is over. So, but the source is Sneakers SO. Now, this person, if you don't know who they are, they have been leaking things in regards to Microsoft way back since the Xbox One reveal in 2013. I don't know who this person is. I don't know who their sources are, but they seem to be privy to knowledge that comes from behind closed doors meetings at Microsoft when it comes to this stuff, because the amount of information that they have is quite surprising. So over on NeoGAF, that's where this person usually dwells, they say here, a person asked a question, I wonder what our old pal Sneakers SO thinks of what's going on right now at Xbox. His last postings were from 2 months ago. I wouldn't mind an industry insider's perspective on all of this. Now, before I go over what he says here, I do want to point out that the last time I believe we covered what Sneakers SO had to say was back in 2023. He was letting everybody know prior to the announcement that Microsoft is planning on going multi-platform, and they're going to be announcing multiple games coming to PlayStation. And, he was basically revealing all the stuff that just a couple months later, it all happened like clockwork. So here's what he says. Without going into too much detail, not long after the last round of layoffs, the next one should be coming in Q1 26, by the way, and it's going to be just as massive as the last one. Some rumblings out of Xbox started coming out that were a little hard to believe. The ramifications of the Call of Duty Game Pass gambit not working out were just starting to get properly measured. But the thing that really stuck out to me was that suddenly, really concrete plans for actual Microsoft Xbox hardware went from being definitive to up in the air, which was really startling given that this thing was meant to be out relatively soon. It was one of those situations where, despite folks being told, hey, we want to pull the trigger on this in 2026, the steps you would need to take in the lead up to delivering a new console gen were not being met. Lots of things that were, quote, sure things started getting pushed. The Costco retailer pulling Xbox, and apparently they are one of many that we'll learn about soon, told me all I needed to know. To sum it up, the future of Xbox is software publishing with a significantly honed-in focus on profitable IPs, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Minecraft, Candy Crush, Forza Horizon, cloud gaming being the home of the, quote, Xbox platform, transitioning Game Pass into basically becoming the point of entry subscription for xCloud access, which will continue to drive its price tag higher, by the way. They are not done there just yet either, and are releasing their software on any device that has a marketplace and users willing to buy their titles. Maybe some OEM thing will take up the Xbox name, but given what is clearly a collapse in favorable mindshare and faith in the brand, I'm not even sure third-party OEM is going to want to have an Xbox console by the time Microsoft is done with their reorienting of the division. So this is what Sneakers SO had to say. And for those wondering about this person's credibility, it's worth noting that The Verge's Tom Warren did not too long after he revealed this information, come out and say that, yeah, this person, whoever they are, they seem to know a lot of what's going on behind the scenes at Microsoft, specifically with the gaming division. And the most shocking thing here, I would agree with what Sneakers SO is saying here, is that apparently Microsoft might actually be getting ready to exit the console hardware market. Now, for Xbox fans who are still left supporting the brand, specifically from a hardware stance, they have been leaning into this upcoming Xbox console. And people have been pointing out that they already announced that they have a contract with AMD. They even put a video out announcing this. But we do need to keep in mind that these contracts oftentimes have clauses, right? And part of it would be a cancellation clause, which I'm sure Microsoft would have to pay for. But this is just pretty shocking overall to maybe some people. But for me, however, I'm not shocked by any of this whatsoever. I think it became pretty clear a while ago that Microsoft just isn't really interested anymore in competing in the console space. They clearly want to just lean into being a massive third party publisher, nothing more, nothing less. We just saw with the Game Pass price increases how you have seemingly, I mean, millions of people potentially canceling their subscriptions because they're like, dude, you just announced a 50% price increase. I'm not paying that. It was worth it maybe at $20, but at $30, that's pushing it. No, thank you. I already have enough subscriptions. I already have enough things to pay for. I may as well just buy the games at this point that I want to play. I mean, people were quite shocked by just how significant the price increase was. And that comes almost immediately after they announced a second price increase for their consoles, where they're out here selling an Xbox Series X for $800. It makes no sense. And then we saw that Costco announced that they're no longer selling Xbox products, and Costco is a massive retailer. So when you see that, it maybe is a sign of what's to come. And now we're hearing from possibly the most reliable Microsoft insider that things that were once considered definitive and are happening are now, as they put it, up in the air and potentially canceled. And this is why I said at the beginning of my video that if any of this is true or turns out to be true, and it goes the way it's looking like it's going to go, yeah, it is over in the sense that Microsoft will be completely out of the console market and it is their full-blown exit. It's also interesting to me that apparently their new vision, which I guess isn't too surprising when you consider that Microsoft is a cloud company first and foremost, their new vision for Xbox as a platform is not a console and has pretty much nothing to do with hardware, but is now going to be cloud based. It pretty much sounds like Microsoft is planning on turning Xbox into what Google Stadia essentially was before it, ended up going away because nobody wanted that. This is going to be, really interesting to see unfold if it's true. I think that a lot of people are kind of in denial. At least that's what I've been seeing in some of my replies on my Twitter posts, like people saying that there's no way, this is not true. This sounds like a bunch of crap, right? Like, who even is this person? But I'm trying to tell people that, guys, like, the person who's leaking this information is not just some random dude on the internet. It's not just some random Twitter user or Reddit user. This is a person, again, that has been leaking Microsoft's plans from like a boardroom level, which is what's most shocking to me. Pretty much since 2013. And I'm not trying to like overhype them. I'm just saying they've been correct about literally everything. So I don't know, man. I think there's going to be a certain level of devastation across the Xbox player base, like what's left of the Xbox player base, if Microsoft comes out and announces they're canceling hardware. There was this conversation that cropped up over the last like 9 months or so that talked about the idea of this upcoming next generation Xbox/PC hybrid hardware that will run Steam, apparently, actually being able to viably compete against the PlayStation 6. And, it's worth entertaining that conversation because we want to believe there's still going to be some level of competition But again, if this turns out to be true, there is officially zero competition, and Microsoft is done, done, done in the console space, which I wish I could say I would be shocked by that. But, I thought, hey, they're probably going to give it like one more shot. Um, but I always kind of got the sense, and I guess this is where I'll wrap this video up. I always got the sense when I talked about this upcoming Xbox hardware, when we heard that they were going to be licensing out the Xbox brand to OEMs to make their own Xbox consoles, to me, that just sounded like PC. And then you had Sarah Bond come out and emphasize that it's going to be Windows based and talk about different storefronts and the idea that Steam will be on it. And it really just started to sound to me like, so you guys are just making PCs ultimately. Like that's what you're doing. You're just making Windows PCs and you're going to try to market it towards console players. Those who were left still playing on the Xbox consoles as a way to transition them over. I always just kind of question, like, what really is the point of that? Like if you're just going to PC, like there's nothing wrong with that. You can make PCs, but Microsoft already has like the Surface line, although I don't know how relevant that is today. It just always sounded to me like, I don't know. I don't think that, like, to me, this doesn't seem like you're actually trying to do anything in the console space, and it very much signals that you want out of the console space. But here we are. So, guys, I had to take some time to talk about this because this is a pretty substantial report that we're getting here, and the ramifications, are yet to fully be seen here. We'll find out in the coming months, but yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. You guys know my feelings on Microsoft on Xbox. You know why I, left a long time ago. Looking at this, it's just like, sheesh, man. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it or found it informative. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.